Hello and welcome. Today we are cracking open just 2 pages from James Joyce's monster of a book, Ulysses. Now I know, 2 pages might not sound like a lot, but trust me, they are absolutely jam-packed with tension, with history, and with art. So, let's dive right in.
Welcome to the episode 11 summary of the Ulysses Unlocked podcast, where we analyze Ulysses by James Joyce 1 page at a time. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us. For more detailed analysis, listen to the Ulysses Unlocked podcast, where we analyze Ulysses by James Joyce in detail, 1 page at a time.
All right, so let's start with a question. How can a simple chat after breakfast reveal everything about money, betrayal, and maybe even the soul of an entire nation? Because that's what we're looking at here. It seems simple on the surface, right? Just 3 young guys finishing breakfast in an old stone tower. But with Joyce, this single moment becomes this incredibly dense tapestry of personal drama and heavy history. So, what is really going on here?
Well, for starters, it all kicks off with that one topic that makes everything awkward: money. Their English guest, a guy named Haines, politely asks Stephen Dedalus about his theory on Hamlet. And Stephen's gut reaction, well, it tells you everything you need to know about where his head is at.
I mean, can you believe the bluntness of that? Stephen has this brilliant, complex, artistic theory brewing in his mind, and his very first thought isn't about literature or truth or beauty, it's about cash. It's just a raw, honest moment that shows you exactly how broke and desperate he really is.
And this sets up the conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got Stephen, just seeing his options as this bleak choice between getting money from the poor milkwoman or from the rich Englishman. And on the other side, you've got Buck Mulligan, who is absolutely furious because Stephen just made a huge social blunder. You know, Mulligan was trying to talk him up, to make him look good, and Stephen just comes in and ruins it with his gloomy attitude.
But then, in a flash, Mulligan completely changes his tune. He suddenly agrees with Stephen, but in the most cynical way you can imagine. He basically says, yeah, just use people for their money. Play them, just like I do. And that right there, that shows you the huge difference between them. Stephen is trapped by his poverty, while Mulligan just sees the whole world as a game you can manipulate to win.
And this whole idea of performance, it's so key to understanding Mulligan. I mean, as he gets ready to leave the tower, every single little thing he does becomes a piece of theater, just loaded with these over-the-top literary and religious references. He doesn't just, take off his dressing gown. No, he makes this grand, mock-serious announcement. He's not just getting dressed, he's turning it into this epic moment, straight out of the Passion of Christ. It's so performative. It's totally blasphemous, and it is 100% pure Mulligan.
Now, to really get the joke here, you have to know about the Stations of the Cross. It's a Catholic thing. And the 10th station, believe it or not, is literally Jesus is stripped of his clothes. So by saying this about himself, Mulligan is comparing the everyday act of changing his clothes to the humiliation of Jesus on the way to be crucified. It's just a perfect example of his witty and, pretty irreverent character.
And the show goes on. As he's digging around for his clothes, he declares he wants to wear puce gloves and green boots, which would have been a completely wild, clashing outfit. And how does he justify this fashion disaster? With a famous line of poetry, of course. Yeah, that line is from Walt Whitman's incredible poem, Song of Myself. Whitman uses it to say that he's a huge, complex personality, that he contains multitudes. And Mulligan, in classic Mulligan fashion, takes this deep philosophical statement and uses it to justify his taste in accessories. It's hilarious, and it just captures his whole personality in a nutshell.
He even gives himself a new name, Mercurial Malachi. And it's so clever when you break it down. Mercurial links him to the fast-moving Roman messenger god, Mercury. And Malachi is a Hebrew prophet whose name literally means, my messenger. So you see, Mulligan sees himself as this new kind of prophet for a new Ireland, one that's all about Greek ideals of art and beauty, not the old traditions.
Okay, so as this whirlwind of a character is finally getting ready to leave, the focus shifts. Because while Mulligan is putting on this big show for his exit, Stephen Dedalus makes a few quiet, deliberate moves that totally flip the power dynamic.
So let's just walk through this. Mulligan leaves with one last biblical joke. It's his final performance. But watch Stephen. He calmly picks up his walking stick, pulls the heavy iron door shut, turns the lock, and puts that big, heavy key deep into his pocket. These aren't flashy moves. They're quiet, they're solid, and they feel final.
And this is the moment it all clicks into place. Mulligan, now on the outside, suddenly realizes he doesn't have the key. He has to ask for it. And Stephen's answer, "I have it," is so simple, but so incredibly powerful. He doesn't say, "Here you go." He just states a fact. Possession of the key has changed hands. He now controls the tower. It's his.
And finally, as they're all standing outside, the tower itself almost becomes a character. A simple question about the rent from Haines, the Englishman, suddenly peels back all these layers of Irish history and colonial tension.
Mulligan gives the practical detail first. The rent for this historic tower is £12 a year.
But then Stephen, almost as an aside, adds this crucial little piece of information. That rent money is paid to the Secretary of State for War. And bam, it's this sharp political jab, reminding everybody that this Irish landmark is ultimately owned and controlled by the British military, the colonial power.
Mulligan then chimes in with the history. These towers were built by the British Prime Minister William Pitt to defend the coast from a possible invasion by Napoleon. But the way he says it, that phrase is just so incredibly loaded.
You see, that line, "when the French were on the sea," comes directly from a famous Irish rebel song called the Sean Van Vocht. The song is all about the hope, back in the 1790s, that the French would come help Ireland fight for its independence from Britain. So in one casual sentence, Mulligan is talking about the tower as a tool of British defense, while at the same time referencing this deep history of Irish rebellion against that very same power. The past is never really past, is it?
And just like that, the conversation whips back around. Haines asks again about Hamlet, and Mulligan deflects with this fantastic joke, comparing Stephen's complicated theory to the philosophy of a medieval saint.
Right, so Thomas Aquinas was this hugely famous Catholic philosopher, known for writing these massive, incredibly logical books. So what Mulligan is basically saying, as a joke, is that Stephen's theory is so dense and complicated, with so many parts and subparts, that he's going to need a few pints of beer before his brain can even handle it. It's a jab, but it's also kind of a compliment to Stephen's intelligence.
And that leaves us with some pretty juicy questions, doesn't it? In this whole little drama, who actually has the power? The guy with all the witty words, or the guy who's holding the key? Is Mulligan really a prophet for a new age, or is he just a clown? And what on earth is this secret theory about Hamlet that's so complicated it takes 3 pints to even get started?
Well, to get the full, deep dive analysis on all of that, you've got to check out the Ulysses Unlocked podcast, which was the source for this whole summary. You can find them anywhere you listen. Thanks so much for joining me, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives.